At Arlington's Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, a Russian general's arrogance sparks a tense showdown with Sentinel Jake Carter. One bold move threatens sacred ground. Will discipline prevail? Dive into the Silent Sentinel for a gripping tale of honor. Before we continue this story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel because tomorrow we have another special story for you. A thin veil of mist hung over Arlington National Cemetery, softening the edges of the white headstones that stretched across the Virginia hills. It was a crisp autumn morning, and the air carried a solemn weight as diplomats, military officers, and dignitaries gathered for an international memorial ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. The distant notes of a trumpet, mournful and clear, echoed through the grounds, signaling the start of the event. The ceremony honored not just American fallen, but all soldiers lost in conflicts worldwide, a gesture of unity in a fractured world. Corporal Jacob Carter, known as Jake to those close to him, stood at his post as a tomb guard of the 3rd Infantry Regiment, the Old Guard. At 28, Jake was a study in discipline, his black uniform pressed to razor-sharp perfection, his white-gloved hands gripping his M14 rifle with unwavering precision. His service cap framed a face set in the Sentinel's 1,000-yard stare, eyes fixed on the horizon, unmoved by the mist that clung to his polished boots. Each movement of his guard change was a sacred ritual, 21 steps, a pause of 21 seconds, a crisp turn, and repeat. The rhythm was more than duty, it was a heartbeat, a tribute to the unknowns who rested beneath the marble slab before him. Jake had earned his place as a tomb guard after 3 tours in Afghanistan, where the chaos of war had left scars, both visible and hidden. A faint line across his left forearm marked a shrapnel wound from Kandahar, but the deeper wounds were memories of friends who never made it home. Private First Class Ryan Miller, his best friend, was the sharpest loss. A 22-year-old from Ohio killed by an IED outside Kabul in 2018. Ryan's laugh, his knack for terrible puns, haunted Jake's quiet moments. Here at the tomb, Jake felt Ryan's presence, as if the unknowns carried the spirits of every soldier who gave everything. Today, with foreign delegations arriving, Jake's duty felt heavier, a silent vow to honor those who could no longer speak. The ceremony began with a low murmur of voices, dignitaries in dark coats and polished shoes mingling near the memorial amphitheater. Jake's eyes remained forward, but his ears caught fragments of conversation, French, German, and a distinct Russian accent. The Russian delegation, led by General Ivan Vulov, had arrived with a small entourage. Vulov, a towering figure in his mid-50s, cut an imposing silhouette in his crisp uniform, medals from campaigns in Syria and Ukraine glinting on his chest. His broad shoulders and sharp jawline exuded authority, but his gray eyes held a glint of arrogance, scanning the plaza like a hawk assessing unfamiliar terrain. A faint scar above his left eyebrow hinted at battles fought and survived, though his demeanor suggested he thrived on dominance more than duty. "This is theatrical nonsense," Vulikov muttered in Russian to his aide, Captain Alexei Petrov, a lean young officer with a nervous glance. "In Moskva, we honor our heroes with real soldiers, not actors in a parade." His voice was low, but carried, and a few nearby guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing the edge in his tone. Jake heard the words through the fog of his focus, but didn't flinch. His training as a sentinel demanded absolute composure, no matter the provocation. He counted his steps. 1, 2, 3, 21. Pause. Turn. The tomb stood resolute, its marble surface catching the muted light, a symbol of sacrifice that transcended borders. Vulikov's disdain stung, but Jake's discipline was ironclad, forged in the heat of combat and tempered by the weight of this post. As the ceremony progressed, delegations took their places for the wreath-laying. A British colonel stepped forward, his movements precise as he placed a wreath of red poppies, bowing his head in silent respect. A French admiral followed, her wreath adorned with trivescent, white lilies. When the Russian delegation's turn came, Vulov strode to the tomb with deliberate swagger, his boots clicking sharply on the stone plaza. He placed a wreath of evergreen and red ribbons, but instead of stepping back, he lingered, pulling out his phone and snapping a photo of the tomb, his lens flashing dangerously close to the restricted area marked by a low chain barrier. "Excuse me, sir," Major Sarah Nguyen said, approaching swiftly, a U.S. Army liaison officer. Sarah was 35, with sharp features and a calm authority that belied her petite frame. Her dark hair was pulled into a tight bun, and her uniform bore the insignia of a combat veteran. "Photography is not permitted in the restricted zone, General Vulov. Please step back." Vulikov turned, his lips curling into a dismissive smile. "In Russia, Major, we document our respects. This is a phone, not a grenade." He snapped another photo, the flash cutting through the mist like a challenge. Sarah's jaw tightened, but her voice remained professional. "General, the tomb of the unknown soldier is sacred ground. Protocol applies to all guests, no exceptions." Vulikov chuckled, tucking his phone into his pocket. "Sacred, yes, but this," he gestured at Jake, who continued his silent march, rifle steady, "this is a performance. Soldiers belong on battlefields, not playing dress-up for tourists." Sarah's eyes narrowed, her tone firm but measured. "The Sentinels are combat veterans, General. Their duty here is as real as any battlefield. I'm sure you understand the concept of honor." Vulikov waved her off, his smile fading into a smirk. "Honor. In Russia, we honor our dead with action, not statues." He rejoined his delegation, leaving Sarah to exchange a glance with a nearby American officer. Captain Alexei leaned toward Vulikov, whispering, "Should we respect their rules, sir? They seem sensitive about this." Vulikov scoffed, his voice low but audible. "This is America's obsession with ceremony over substance. Let them play their games. We are here to show Russia's strength, not to bow to their rituals." Jake's grip on his rifle tightened, the only sign of the anger simmering beneath his discipline. He'd faced worse in Afghanistan, taunts from insurgents, distrust from locals, but this was different. The tomb wasn't just a monument, it was a promise to men like Ryan, a vow that their sacrifice would never be forgotten. Vulikov's words were a jab at that promise, but Jake's discipline held firm. 21 steps, 21 seconds, turn. At the guard post, Sergeant Diego Morales, another tomb guard waiting for his rotation, caught Jake's eye. Diego, 29, stocky with a quick grin and a knack for diffusing tension, mouthed, "This guy thinks he's starring in a Bond flick or what?" His humor eased Jake's tension, but only slightly. Diego, a Mexican-American from San Antonio, had served with Jake in Afghanistan, their bond forged in the chaos of war. Diego's levity was a lifeline, but Jake's focus remained on the tomb. The ceremony continued with speeches from an American general who spoke of shared sacrifice and a UN representative who called for unity. Jake's discipline never wavered, but he sensed Vulikov's restless energy, the general's movements disrupting the solemnity. As the crowd dispersed for a brief recess, Vulikov approached the tomb again, this time holding a glass of water from the refreshment table. He stood just outside the chain barrier, staring at Jake with a mix of curiosity and contempt. "You, soldier," Vulov said in English, his accent thick but clear, "how long do you stand here pretending to be a statue? Did they pay you extra for silence?" Jake didn't respond, his eyes locked on the horizon. The Sentinel's code was explicit, no interaction unless protocol was violated. His mind drifted to Ryan, to the day they'd shared a laugh over MREs in Kabul. Ryan's laugh, his knack for terrible puns, haunted Jake's quiet moments. Here at the tomb, Jake felt Ryan's presence, as if the unknowns carried the spirits of every soldier who gave everything. Today, with foreign delegations arriving, Jake's duty felt heavier, a silent vow to honor those who could no longer speak. The ceremony began with a low murmur of voices, dignitaries in dark coats and polished shoes, mingling near the memorial amphitheater. Jake's eyes remained forward, but his ears caught fragments of conversation, French, German, and a distinct Russian accent. The Russian delegation, led by General Ivan Vulov, had arrived with a small entourage. Vulov, a towering figure in his mid-50s, cut an imposing silhouette in his crisp uniform, medals from campaigns in Syria and Ukraine glinting on his chest. His broad shoulders and sharp jawline exuded authority, but his gray eyes held a glint of arrogance, scanning the plaza like a hawk assessing unfamiliar terrain. A faint scar above his left eyebrow hinted at battles fought and survived, though his demeanor suggested he thrived on dominance more than duty. "This is theatrical nonsense," Vulikov muttered in Russian to his aide, Captain Alexei Petrov, a lean young officer with a nervous glance. "In Moscow, we honor our heroes with real soldiers, not actors in a parade." His voice was low, but carried, and a few nearby guests shifted uncomfortably, sensing the edge in his tone. Jake heard the words through the fog of his focus, but didn't flinch. His training as a sentinel demanded absolute composure, no matter. Story. "Remove the glass or I'll have security do it for you." Volov laughed loud enough to draw more eyes. "Respect? I respect real soldiers, not the circus." He gestured at Jake, his voice rising. "Tell me, soldier, do you even speak, or are you trained to be mute like a trained dog?" Diego, still at the guard post, muttered under his breath. "Man, this guy's begging for a reality check." But Jake remained motionless, his discipline a wall against Volov's taunts. The general's glass sat on the barrier, a small but deliberate insult to the tomb's sanctity. Jake's mind raced, balancing his duty to remain silent with the need to protect the tomb's honor. He couldn't let this escalate. Not here, not today. Ambassador Elena Makarov, the Russian diplomat, approached, her face a mask of controlled concern. A poised woman in her mid-40s, Makarov carried herself with the grace of a seasoned negotiator. "General Volov," she said in Russian, her tone firm but diplomatic, "this is not the place for such behavior. You're risking an international incident. Please step back." Volov shrugged, his eyes still on Jake. "An incident? I am merely testing the famous American discipline, Elena." He leaned closer to the barrier, his voice dropping to a taunt. "In Syria, I led men who died for their country. What do you know of sacrifice, standing here in your polished boots, playing guard for tourists?" Jake's heart pounded, memories flooding back. Not just Ryan, but a Russian soldier, Sergeant Male Ivanov, who had saved Jake's life during a joint operation in Syria in 2019. Jake's unit had been embedded with Russian Spetsnaz to clear an ISIS stronghold near Deir ez-Zor. During a firefight, Male had pushed Jake out of the way of a sniper's bullet, taking the hit himself. Jake saw Male's face in his mind, blue eyes wide with pain, a faint nod as he fell. Jake had learned Russian in the months that followed, a tribute to Male's sacrifice, a way to carry his memory. Volkov's words cut deep, questioning the very honor Jake stood for, but his training held. 21 steps, 21 seconds turn. Sarah stepped between Volov and the barrier, her voice now steel. "General, I'm asking you one last time. Remove the glass and step back, or I'll call security. This is your final warning." Volov's smile faded, replaced by a cold stare. "You threaten me, Major. I have NATO clearance. I am Russia's representative." He turned to Jake, switching back to English. "You, soldier, move the glass from me. That's an order from a superior officer under international protocol." The crowd grew quieter, the tension palpable. Jake's mind raced. Volov was baiting him, trying to break his discipline, to prove American ceremony was hollow. But the Sentinel's guard's oath was clear: protect the tomb no matter the cost. Jake continued his march, ignoring the general's command, his steps echoing in the silence. Volov's face reddened, his voice rising. "This is disrespect to Russia. In my army, a soldier who ignores a general is court-martialed." He pointed at Jake, his medals clinking. "You will acknowledge me, or I will report this to your Pentagon." Ambassador Makarov placed a hand on Volov's arm, her voice urgent. "Ivan, enough. You're embarrassing our delegation. The Kremlin explicitly warned against provocations. Step back now." Volov shook her off, his focus locked on Jake. "No, Elena, I will not be silenced by American pageantry. This is a matter of respect for Russia's military honor." He reached for the chain barrier, his fingers brushing the metal as he prepared to step over it. This is a symbol, nothing more. I will prove it. The moment Volov's hand touched the barrier, Jake's training took over. In a fluid motion, he broke his march, stepping forward with the precision of a machine. His rifle remained at his shoulder, but his presence filled the plaza, commanding attention. "General Volov," he said, his voice steady and clear, cutting through the mist. "Touching the restricted area of the tomb of the unknown soldier is a violation of Arlington's Security Protocol 4.2. This is sacred ground, dedicated to those who gave their lives for freedom. Step back immediately, or you will be removed." The plaza fell silent, the weight of Jake's words hanging heavy. Volov froze, his hand still on the chain, stunned that the statue had spoken. His gray eyes widened, then narrowed. But before he could respond, Jake continued, switching to flawless Russian. "Furthermore, General, your actions dishonor not only American soldiers, but also the Russian soldiers who fought and died alongside us. I served in Syria in 2019 with your Spetsnaz near Deir ez-Zor. I knew Malay Ivanov, who died saving my life from a sniper's bullet. This tomb honors him too, and every soldier, American or Russian, who never came home." Volkov's jaw dropped, his arrogance crumbling under the shock of Jake's Russian and the mention of Malay. The crowd murmured, diplomats and officers exchanging glances. Sarah Nguyen's eyes widened, a mix of surprise and pride. Diego at the guard post whispered, "Holy hell, Jake, you just dropped a bomb." Jake's voice remained calm, but his words carried fire. "Your rank demands respect, General, but the tomb demands more. It demands reverence for every soldier who paid the ultimate price. Mikhail Ivanov was a hero. Ryan Miller, my friend, was a hero. They're why I stand here, why we all stand here. Step back, sir, or you will force our hand." Volkov's face flushed, a muscle twitching in his cheek. He opened his mouth to retort, but the truth in Jake's words hit like a physical blow. Mikhail Ivanov had been one of his men, a Spetsnaz sergeant whose loss had shaken Volkov's unit. The general had attended Mikhail's funeral in St. Petersburg, had seen his widow's tears. Jake's mention of him, in perfect Russian, stripped Volkov of his bravado. His hand fell from the barrier, and he took a step back, his shoulders slumping as the weight of his actions settled. Ambassador Makarov seized the moment, her voice cutting through the silence. "General Volov, you will return to the delegation area now." She turned to Sarah, her tone formal but sincere. "Major Nguyen, I apologize for this breach. It will not happen again. I assure you, Russia respects this place and its meaning." Sarah nodded, her tone professional but firm. "Thank you, Ambassador. General, please follow your delegation. Security will escort you if necessary." Volov hesitated, his pride warring against the reality of his misstep. "This is not over," he muttered in Russian, but his voice lacked conviction. He turned and walked away, Makarov guiding him firmly through the crowd. Captain Alexei grabbed the glass from the barrier, mumbling, "I'm sorry, so sorry," before hurrying after them. Jake resumed his march, his steps as precise as ever, the rhythm grounding him. The crowd dispersed, but the air buzzed with whispers. A German colonel leaned toward an American counterpart, saying, "That Sentinel just schooled a Russian general in his own language." The American nodded, a faint smile on his lips. "Never underestimate the old guard." As the ceremony concluded, the dignitaries filed out, leaving the tomb plaza quiet once more. Jake continued his guard change, the mist now lifting under a pale sun. Sarah approached the guard post where Diego was preparing for his rotation. "Nice work out there, Corporal Carter," she said, her voice low but warm. "You handled that like a pro. The Pentagon will hear about this, and not in a bad way." Diego grinned, clapping Jake on the shoulder as they switched posts. "Man, you dropped that Russian on him like a mic at a rap battle. Speaking Russian, where'd that come from, hermano?" Jake's face softened, but he kept his eyes forward. "Learned it after Syria, from Mikey. He saved me. Diego pushed me out of a sniper's line, took the bullet himself. I owed him that much." Sarah nodded, understanding the weight of his words. "You didn't just protect the tomb, Jake. You protected what it stands for. Every soldier, every sacrifice." She paused, her voice softening. My brother was a Marine, lost him in Iraq. I know what this place means. Jake's eyes flickered, a rare break in his discipline. I'm sorry, Major. Your brother's here too. They all are. Diego, now at his post, called over. Yeah, and you made sure Mr. General knew it. Bet he's rethinking his life choices right now. Jake allowed a small smile, the first all day. Just doing my job, Diego. That evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Jake stood alone at the tomb, his shift nearly over. The plaza was empty, the headstones casting long shadows across the grass. The moonlight bathed the tomb in a silver glow, and Jake felt the presence of Ryan, of Male, of every soldier whose sacrifice was etched into this ground. He thought of his father, of Ryan's laugh, of Male's nod in that final moment. They were all here, in every step he took, every pause, every turn. To anyone listening, come to Arlington, walk these grounds, feel the weight of sacrifice, American, Russian, and beyond. Stand before the tomb and hear the silence. It speaks louder than words. Share this story with someone who believes in honor, who knows that some things are worth standing for, no matter the cost. The Sentinels will be here, 21 steps at a time, keeping the promise for those who gave everything.